Valentin Vacherot just became the lowest ranked player to ever win a Masters 1000 title. On the way, he beat Holger Rune, Novak Djokovic, and in the finals, he actually ended up facing his cousin, Arthur Rinderknech. The 2025 Shanghai Masters 1000 tournament was filled with upsets, so Matt and I wanted to talk about all of it and especially highlight the unexpected winner, Valentin Vacherot. Welcome back to Matt and Kyle talking, Matt and Kyle chatting, Matt and Kyle podcast. I don't know. None of those
All
sound
about
very
sports.
good.
Yep.
Talking about
just
sports.
being guys about sports, yeah.
Sure. So today, wanted to talk about most recent Masters 1000 event in tennis, the ATP event, where we had one of the more surprising results in our history of tennis, my history of tennis. Truly incredible. So the winner of the tournament, Valentin Vacherot, ranked number 204 before the tournament, became the lowest ranked player ever to win an ATP Masters 1000 title. Before Shanghai, he had only won a single ATP Tour match in his whole career. And to then win at, really the next stage right before the majors at an ATP 1000 title it's not an overstatement to say that it's life-changing for people to do something like this. So I kind of wanted to go through a little bit, set the scene of the whole tournament, go through round by round of, some of the bigger matches. Probably won't go through every single match from the round of 64, round of 32. But then looking forward, going through most of the matches and just sort of talk about some of the more surprising results, maybe some of the really expected results, some of the blowouts, that sort of thing. Because it really was a crazy tournament. In the final, to kind of skip ahead a little bit, he ended up matching up with his cousin, which was also crazy. His name is Arthur Rinderknech, and that was the final match. It was between cousins, both of which I cannot. Rinderknech, I think that one rung a bell in my ear a little bit as someone who follows tennis, I guess maybe a little bit more than casually. I would say, I follow all the majors pretty seriously and pay attention to most of the 1000 tournaments, at least watching the main matches. And his name I at least recognized, but nonetheless, to have this be the final of Masters 1000 tournament, very surprising. And so it felt like it was worth having a discussion about.
Yeah. Anytime a result like this happens and the number 204 seed, or not even seed, number 204 ranked wins a tournament, and it's a Masters tournament, and along the way, he beats multiple ranked players, including, which we'll get to, Novak Djokovic, who's currently ranked number 4 and is, of course, has been, one of the top 3 best players in the world for past, 20 years, 16 years. Anytime that kind of happens, I think it deserves just like a breakdown of like, hey, well, let's go through match by match and like see what happened here. Like, was this super fluky? Was it people getting injured? Was he outplaying them? I think these are all questions that we're going to try and answer, or at least talk about. Maybe the last thing that made this historic was he's the first tennis player from Monaco to win a Masters 1000 event, which is not that surprising on one hand because Monaco is a very small country. I actually don't. What is their population? I mean, it can't be that big. It looks like they are at 38,000 people, so it's like very small country. But on the other hand, tennis is one of those sports that is kind of known for being a sport of wealthier people. Monaco has a very big presence in F1, which is, very expensive sport to participate in. And so I kind of was a little bit surprised to hear that this was the first Monegasque to win a Masters event. But yeah, such a small country. I mean, I was so unfamiliar with it that I thought he was a Polish player when I saw his flag, and their flag is flipped. So that was also my bad on the vexillology understanding there. But yeah,
Vocab word of the day,
if I said it right, vexillology. I don't know. Either way, I think it's going to be interesting to kind of go through each one. So we broke it down. I'm going to go through. I'll start with the round of 64, and then we'll kind of pepper back and forth, hit it back and forth. Round of 32 for Kyle. I'll do round of 16 and so on, and we'll try and just kind of talk about each match that we saw. Anything else kind of major before I jump in?
Nope. I think you mentioned a couple big points about him beating Djokovic. Obviously, that felt like a really substantial result. That was probably arguably, the most substantial result from the tournament was him beating Djokovic, who really seemed to
Yeah.
be in top, maybe not, I mean, not career top form, but as far as how he's been playing this season, he looked really healthy. I don't know if we mentioned it yet, but Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner both were absent. Well, not true. Carlos Alcaraz absent from this tournament. Jannik Sinner ended up getting injured throughout the tournament. And so at
Yeah.
that point, then the tournament opened up sort of for everybody else. And at that point, I remember like sort of it felt like it felt like it was Djokovic's tournament at that point. Just the way that the bracket had filled out. And then obviously with Vacherot beating Djokovic ended up becoming a much different event.
Yeah. No, exactly. It was a more. I mean, this wasn't a grand slam. He didn't beat Alcaraz or Sinner, and it didn't have that next level of prestige. But I think you said it well earlier. This is like the stop or the tier right below it,
Yep.
and he beat the players tiered right below Alcaraz and Sinner. So like not at all taking anything away from what Vacherot did. Um, so starting off, actually, before I get to the round of 64, setting the stage a little bit, Vacherot actually, well, first he had to qualify for this tournament, so he was not included in the main draw automatically. He had to play basically like qualifying rounds in order to make it into the draw. And then he did have a fairly smooth round of 128. He won that in 2 sets. But the one thing that I did note is that during the match, you see he's wearing this kind of patella band, which is basically this. It goes around like it's like right under your kneecap, and it's this little band that is very tight, and it kind of keeps it's basically for knee pain. Is the long story short of it. I've worn one before. It is very useful, but what I was going to take away from that is he clearly was dealing with some knee stuff, some like ligament knee stuff, and that's normally what those are for. And I looked into it, and actually back at Wimbledon, again, not in the main draw. Vacherot was not a main draw player at Wimbledon. He was in the qualifying round, and he had to retire during the first qualifying round of Wimbledon because he basically took a tumble. It looked like he had maybe even torn his ACL, and that was only, I mean, what, that was June, I want to say. So 3 months ago, 4 months ago. Um, so already, like, this guy, he's had to qualify. He has a potential knee injury. He's ranked 204. It's like basically no one is paying attention to him. I don't even, the game that he played in the round of 64 was like outside in one of the outside stadiums at Shanghai. Just no one was really paying attention. But then after the round of 64, people started to take a little bit of notice because he beat Bublik, who is the number 16 rank. He's from Kazakhstan. He's a Kazakh, and has had a great year so far. He got to the quarterfinals at the French Open. On the way, he defeated Jack Draper. Deleted, I guess, his chances.
Deleted.
Not intended to be like that serious, but I guess he did. He deleted him from the tournament. Yeah, beat Jack Draper, who before the French Open had won Indian Wells, and so was having a good year. Like, and he was the 5th seed at that tournament. So we were paying attention to who Bublik was. He did end up losing to Sinner in straight sets in the French Open quarterfinals, but that kind of put him on the map, and so he had a bye into the second round at Shanghai, and was matched up against Vacherot. And during this match, it was one of those matches in tennis where it was super even when you look at the scorecard. They both won about 80% of their first serve points. They both hit roughly the same amount of aces. Vacherot hit 11, Bublik hit 10. Very, very small margins here. Really, it came down to just who broke who when, and like what the distribution of points was inside those break matches. Basically, what happened was that in set 3, Vacherot won the break game. He got Bublik to have an unforced error twice, and that was about it. Like, that was the only break in set 3, and he was able to kind of keep that the whole time. He did have Bublik did challenge him on one of Vacherot's hold games. Vacherot was up 40-15. Bublik, there was this long 14-shot rally that Bublik won, and then another long rally to go to deuce, and then he actually was up the advantage, so Bublik had the break point, but Vacherot was able to kind of claw it back, which I think showed a lot of like mental fortitude there, playing a much higher ranked player up against a break point. You could like lose the break set or the break game you had already got during that set, and yeah, he was able to close it out. There's only one ace in kind of the final few games from Vacherot. So it wasn't like dominating on serves, but I think the thing I really took away is that in the final set, he was hitting a lot of first serves, and that was just able to keep a lot of the pressure. So Yeah, that was his first big win and kind of put him on the map and put him into the round of 32. So, Kyle, what'd you take away from the round of 32?
Yeah, I'll get there in a minute. I think for me,
Yeah,
like beating Bublik specifically is like, yes, Bublik went into the tournament as the 14 seed, but I think like he's one of those players that you're not surprised when he gets upset by somebody you have not heard of. It happens pretty frequently, I would say, with Bublik. He's got a really high ceiling, really, really low floor. And we kind of saw that when he got wrecked by Sinner um, at
he did get
French.
wrecked.
Yeah.
He did get wrecked. It was like three straight sets is not strong enough. It was like three like clean win,
Yep.
like dominating sets. Yeah,
Yep. And so after that, I think that's like one example of a tournament or a match where he got wrecked. And so I think for me, I saw that result and I didn't think anything of it. I probably just passed my eyes right over it and was like, whatever. Like that happens to him sometimes. Not surprising. Honestly, we see the same thing with Medvedev. You'll see Medvedev lose some match to some nobody that you've
fair.
never heard of, and it's like, was it that guy played a great game, or was it Medvedev is just like being weird and for some reason sometimes does not come out to play and doesn't bring the right energy? And that
Especially this
was
year.
yeah, exactly.
Especially this year. He was like losing the first round. I think he lost in the first round of all the Grand Slams or like the first two rounds. Like it was
Yep.
dire straits for Medi.
Yep. So in the round of 32, um, Vacherot played Tomas Maček out of Czechia, and this was honestly not a super exciting match. Probably the least exciting match of the of his tournament. So he ended up beating him 6-0, um, and then he was up 3-1 in the second set. And then Macic ended up retiring from the tournament. And honestly, the whole match, it just kind of felt like he was not in true form. And I don't really have a ton else to take away from it in terms of like how that specific match just kind of felt like he pushed through it. And it's one of those things where you kind of like, it's just sort of the gamble, like the way things ended up turning out in his favor. Player gets injured, and obviously you're not happy about that, how it goes down, but nonetheless, you'll take it into the next round. So again, I didn't really feel like it put him on the map in a way of like, oh wow, like this is exciting. Let's see what this guy can do. It was sort of like the cards are falling in his favor. He'll probably, he's going to play a better player here in a minute, and then he'll get wrecked. And that was sort of how I took it. And also in the round of 32, importantly, this is the round where Sinner's injury occurred. It was definitely like the headline of the tournament for that day. It was not Vacherot making it to the round of 16. It was that Sinner got injured playing Griekspoor. Griekspoor played great, not to take anything away from
Played
him.
great. Yeah.
That match, like he was really competing super well against Jannik. The injury was really crazy. Like I think they're kind of describing it as a cramp, but if you watch the match, it's not like anything like looks off. It's not, it's not like you see like a telltale, like, oh, he definitely just like tore a ligament or something like that. But he like needed help off the court and like clearly was in a ton of pain, which was concerning. And so
Yeah,
that obviously, go ahead.
I was gonna say I've seen I knock on wood, haven't experienced cramps like this. I've seen cramps where it seems like the person like cannot move their body much and they're like in a lot of pain. So it wasn't crazy to me to think that this could have been cramps. And then also as I think it's important to note, it was a very, very hot, very humid tournament.
Yeah.
It was like 90-degree humidity, or excuse me, 90-degree Fahrenheit heat and 90% humidity, which is like a heat index of like 130. So like really, really, really hot conditions. And they were saying it the whole tournament. You can see like, the guys are like their shirts are drenched with sweat from like game one. So again, cramps kind of like make sense in this whole story, but one, and you never know who's going to cramp. But Sinner doesn't seem like the guy. He seems like he's in. I mean, he's one of the best tennis players in the world. He's in great shape. It doesn't cramping doesn't seem exactly up his alley. I don't know. That might be
Dude,
a
I don't.
silly
I
take.
think, man, I think there is something to be said about his conditioning that maybe is like in question because a similar thing happened in
Fair.
Cincinnati
Yeah.
where he had sickness and then retired in the final. And then we see it again here where, yeah, the conditions of the tournament were rough. There's a picture of Medvedev in, I don't remember which round it was, but he's like actually like his shirt is it's like it's almost a mirror with how much water it was like. So the sheen off of it was unbelievable. He was just absolutely drenched, and it must
Yeah.
have been one of those things where he only brought like three shirts. We had to like pace himself and had to do one per set because he could,
Whoever his
otherwise there's
sponsor
no
is,
reason.
they need to hook him up with a few more shirts for
For
the next
sure need to hook him
human
up with some
tournament.
few more shirts. Yeah, so the other match that I wanted to highlight here in the round of 32, and then we can sort of focus more in on Vacherot, but I think that this is an important one because it talks about the other protagonist of our story, who is Arthur Rinderknech, and he upset Zverev,
Yeah.
4-6, 6-3, 6-2. So three setter. And this is actually the second time now that Rinderknech has beat Zverev. He beat him at Wimbledon as
Yep.
well this year. And so now he has a record of 2-0 against arguably the third best player in the world, um, which is really impressive and really cool. And I love the way that Arthur plays. Like he's got almost like a complete opposite style of Zverev, I would say. Like Zverev's just like really clean ground strokes and he kind of just beats you and he spreads the court out, but has a really fast paced ball. Whereas Rinderknech has a lot more of like the serve volley style that you're maybe used to
Mhm.
seeing in like old school tennis, which I think is like a lot more satisfying to watch sometimes, especially just because it feels like we were moving in the direction of hard hitters and all that sort of thing. And so it's cool to see like a blast from the past in terms of how he plays the game. And it was also a little bit of I don't really know what to say, but Zverev in the post match interview from the previous round, he was commenting about the court conditions and was basically saying that he thinks that like the ATP, they're using different materials on the grounds and they're lowering the court speed to allow Sinner and Alcaraz to, it leans more towards their strength, which I guess would like the logic is there because I would say I think Sinner and Alcaraz both play
Sure.
phenomenal defense, and that's really what sets them apart a lot of the time. And at least for Alcaraz more so, but honestly, I feel like Zverev and Sinner have somewhat of a similar game, and so I didn't totally follow what he was saying, but it kind of just felt like a little bit of a loser behavior out of Zverev, and for him to then go get beat by Rinderknech for the second time, yeah,
I agree. We talked about this before, how it's like Zverev is the number three, almost because there has to be a number three, um, not because he's like gone out there and claimed it. And this is just another one of those examples. It's like he's had a lot of opportunities in his career, not just in 2025, but in his career to kind of like take the next step, win the big trophy, and he's never feels like he's never really been able to do it. And it's like, okay, Sinner is retired. I guess Zverev wouldn't have known this. Maybe I don't remember when these matches exactly took place, but Zverev wouldn't have known it. But he knew Alcaraz wasn't playing. And then also like before this, in the round before, Ben Shelton, who was a 6 seed, had gotten out. Um, Taylor Fritz had also lost. Like the bracket is getting uh, much softer. And
yeah.
if Zverev is going to want to like really start putting together a year to challenge Sinner and Alcaraz in 2026, it's not enough to like, well, okay, if he beats them at all the Grand Slams, like that'll obviously be a huge case, but he's also going to need to win some of these smaller tournaments. And some of the guys around him do this pretty well. Like I know I just said Taylor Fritz lost, but Taylor Fritz often does really well at some of these smaller tournaments. Zverev's going to need to like take advantage of some of the opportunities when they happen. This tournament was one of them. And yeah, like I said, he lost. And then, I don't know, a little bit of the mentality question there. But yeah, so we're getting into the round of 16 and like I said, the bracket's starting to look really soft. But again, we're not really thinking about Vacherot as like the guy. It's just like, hey, most tournaments, there's like one lower seed who can make it to maybe the top 16 just by luck of the draw, things that happen. And so, hey, Vacherot is fulfilling that. But then he beats Tomas Griekspoor. Apologies if I'm saying the first name wrong, or actually either name, but I think I have the second name right. Um, yeah, like you said, Griekspoor had played a really great game against Sinner. Sinner did retire, so some questions, but I think in this game, this match against Vacherot, you really got to see a lot of the abilities. Um, he hit a lot of great ground strokes and played really good defense. One of Vacherot's strengths that he showed throughout the whole tournament was his net game. He played really, really smart at the net, and Griekspoor kept a lot of points going really longer than you kind of expected a lot of them to. He also served super well. Griekspoor had 17 aces during the game against Sinner. Um, but and then I think he had another high number of aces against Vacherot. I don't have the number in front of me, but um, he was serving really well. but it wasn't enough because Vacherot, however good Griekspoor was serving, Vacherot was returning even better, and then he was serving really well at clutch times. Vacherot saved all 6 break points that he faced, and then even in the second set, when Griekspoor already won the first set, Vacherot came back. He was down 0-40 in his serving game, and then served out to win that game. So super clutch from Vacherot. He then broke him at 5-5 in that second set to eventually win that second set 7-5. And I got to say, Vacherot's athleticism really started to impress me as well. Like we just talked about how hot and humid it was, and he looked. I mean, he didn't look fresh because he was sweating so much, but like he looked he looked energetic. He was getting to the net the whole time, hitting like smart shots in the net. It wasn't like anything super spectacular where he was blowing your mind while you were watching him, but just like great tennis and hit strong winners when he had the ability to hit kind of those smart like almost like dinks around the net that were winners that like if he had kind of mishit it a little bit, then it would have got returned. Um, yeah, it wasn't. It was a great battle, and
Hmm.
yeah, he got the one crucial game near the end of set 3 again, and that was it, and he was into the quarterfinals. And this is kind of when I think both for us and for him, when things like you kind of saw his face when he won that match, and he started to be like, oh, he actually believes that he could like keep this thing going, which I think was really cool to see. And then obviously we get to the quarterfinals, which I'll pass to you for.
Sure. I totally agree. That was sort of the match where he kind of made his face known. And I mean, now, right, there's only eight players left in the field. For making it to the quarterfinals, you make $189,000 this tournament.
Dang! Oh my gosh, I had no idea.
So, I mean, just make it to the quarters. You're already like, from his standpoint, I imagine, I mean, yeah, he's from Monaco, so maybe money's not the biggest concern, but nonetheless, I mean, when you're at that like grind level of, when your ranking is in the hundreds to 200s, you're paying attention to finances, I'm sure.
Yeah, I
And
mean
if,
he had never
Mhm.
played. He had played in one Grand Slam in his career, and the rest
Yeah,
he just had failed to qualify for. So I'm sure
yeah.
money is he's thinking about it.
And
Yeah,
it's not like you're traveling, just really like next door. Like you're going to Shanghai. Like
yeah,
you're getting a hotel, all this stuff. So like making it that far is like a huge deal from just strictly a financial standpoint. And so then in the quarterfinals, he played Holger Rune, the 10 seed for the tournament. And this is where I think, probably had, if not the most exciting match
hmm
of his tournament, I thought. So he lost the first set 2-6, which is becoming a theme where he'll sort of drop the first set, and then proceed to climb back up. And honestly, it wasn't close, right? Like a 2-6 loss in the first, not feeling
yeah,
great. He wasn't great on serve receive, was missing some pretty easy ground strokes, and just didn't really seem like he was on it. And also didn't really seem like he was getting pissed either. He's pretty calm, cool, collected while he's playing,
definitely.
um, which I think is really important when you're not a top guy to have that sort of mindset. And so in the second set, this is where things got really tight. It went to a second set tiebreak. So right at this point, if Rune wins the tiebreak, match is over. It ends up going, I want to say it was 4-4 in the second set tiebreak. So basically, Rune's 3 points away from winning the match, and Vestro's out of the tournament. He really like grinded down and was just hitting such clean strokes. Both these guys were honestly playing an awesome match. That's why I think it was probably my favorite match of the tournament. Just really good ball striking. It didn't feel like either player was really missing a lot. They were both just hitting really solid winners and beating the other player. So, anyways, goes on to win the second set, 7-6, obviously, and kind of holds on to that momentum. Wins the third set 6-4 after getting like a really gritty break over Rune. I want to say that one was went into like ad deuce a few times. Ended up winning that, and gets over that hump. And this is the one where it really felt like he finally got over that hump, beats a really solid player, no like ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah,
Rune was like probably second or third to win this tournament at this point in the match. I can only imagine what the odds were for like this match, and then looking to the next round, I can only imagine. I didn't look up. I would actually love to. I'm curious to go look back and see what the odds were for just like money line for any of these, because gosh, it could not have been. It was bleak for sure. But yep. So, anyways, makes it past that and makes it into the semis. I did want to touch on a couple of the other matches too while we're here. Um, Medvedev makes it to the semis as well over Alex de Minaur. Both of them are playing really good. Medvedev also had an awesome match against Lerner Tien. We beat him 6-4, 6-4. That match was the one that I was talking about where he was like glistening in sweat. Lerner
And
Tien, go
Leonard
ahead.
Chen had beat him. How we
That's,
first kind of like became aware of Leonard Chen was when he beat him at the Australian Open in I think round one of this year, and like
yeah,
so there's a little bit of like I won't say rivalry, but there's at least history between them in that Leonard Chen. I think Medi was the 5 seed in that tournament, so an even bigger upset, and now Medi got the kind of run back on him. So I'm sure that was a big one for him.
for sure, for sure. But yep, nonetheless, wanted to touch on that. The other one, the other character we've been following for this story is Arthur Rinderknecht, and he beat FAA. And I'm loving the acronyms for the players. I'm doing it. I think
They're useful.
who's the other one? ADF. ADF was in this
ADF,
tournament as
yeah.
well. But yeah, so Rinderknecht also makes it to the semis. Like I said, he has that serve volley play style. He won that one pretty handily, 6-3, 6-4 against Felix Auger-Aliassime, which is just a phenomenal win for him. I mean, he's a big guy, and to beat Felix, who plays such good defense really quick, an awesome win for him. And so, yeah, those are our two guys we're really following going into the semis.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the semis is where we start to actually honestly the quarters even before this, but we start to think about like what tennis would be like without Sinner and Alcaraz. Like those guys have dominated maybe since like middle of 2024, maybe early 2024 is when it felt like they started pulling away from the pack as like the two guys, and everybody else was a step below. And that's definitely been the story in 2025. And now they're both out of this tournament. Like what is going to be the storyline? And yes, it's not it's not one of the Grand Slams, not one of the majors, but what is going to be the storyline? And I think you said it earlier. It looks like the storyline is going to be Novak Djokovic is going to win this tournament. He is the 4 seed. He just got what you would call a soft semifinals draw against a guy who was ranked 204th and has been on this awesome Cinderella run, but like now he's playing Novak. And Novak's won Shanghai 4 times before this. Like he's comfortable here. Like this is a storyline going into the semifinals. And then it flips almost immediately. Vacherot played so well in set 1. Like he really didn't, which, and I think you mentioned this earlier, he had lost a lot of first sets throughout the tournament. I think he had lost 5 of his first sets up to this point, and then he lost actually another one in the finals. So he to not do that against Novak, who is so like pressing and precise, especially when he's winning, I think was a really big deal. He won 78% of the points on his first serve in set 1, and he returned great. He won 44% of his return points that he played, compared to Novak's 30%. So like both serving and returning, he was just like lights out. And honestly, I like watching it. He really controlled the flow of the game, which is so hard to do against a guy like Djokovic who has played more tennis matches than either of us could count. Like the fact that he was able to control the flow of the game and control the distribution of shots during the points and move Novak around rather than him moving him around. I think those are really big. And the last kind of thing I'll say that I really took away from here was that he didn't look. You said it earlier that he's got a really good disposition on the court, like a very calm, collected kind of guy. And I think that really helped him against some of the longer rallies against Djokovic, because I think, I'm putting myself in those shoes. It's like, if I have if I see an opportunity to like hit a winner forehand, or what would I think would be a winner forehand against, and I'm like, oh, I could get this point over Djokovic. There's a world where you get like too excited and then you kind of shank it, or you hit it in Djokovic's defense and he's faster than you expect, and then now he's on the offensive or something like that. Like it's so easy to kind of give away some of those points and try too hard to like finish them off. He did a really good job at like, if Djokovic was getting the balls back to the court, he wasn't trying to smash it home as hard as he could. He was just hitting the right shot and then trusting that like, since he was on the offensive during that point, that he was eventually going to win that point. Like he didn't try too hard. There was this one point where Djokovic was up 30-0, or love 30 on Vacherot's serve. So an important point to kind of win. And Djokovic was like back there defending, getting those like looping lob returns all the way back to him. And he could have so easily like swung really, really hard on some smash, try and get it like way past him, and then you kind of risk hitting it out or hitting into the net. And he just did it. I mean, he hit clean smashes, and then was able to reset and then won that point from the baseline. And that really impressed me. Like you're on by far the biggest stage of tennis you've ever played against the by far the most, the biggest opponent you've ever played, and you're not trying too hard. You're letting
Yeah.
your game play. And so super impressed. He won that set eventually 6-3, 6-4, and yeah, on to the finals. And
Heck yeah.
at the end of his semifinals, Rindernesh's semifinals had not finished yet. I don't even think it started. So it was like everybody knows that they are cousins. They've started to talk about this as a potential finals, but of
Yeah.
course, Vacherot winning his finals is more of the long shot than Rinderknecht winning his finals against Medvedev, just because he's a higher ranked player. But now that Vacherot's won his, it's like, oh, we could actually get a cousin finals, and so then of course it happens, and that's how we get to the final match of the tournament.
Yeah, that's right. I wanted to sprinkle in one more note about the whole Djokovic, like, you're playing arguably the best tennis player of all time, if not one, probably two.
Yeah.
And so in the quarterfinals, I was watching this match. So he played, I think, is it Zizu Bergs? He's a Belgian tennis player. That match was actually really awesome to watch. Zizu Bergs, this was sort of like a great tournament for him as well, making the quarters here. He had a couple upsets. He beat Casper Ruud in the round of 32, which was a great win for him. Anyways, but in this match against Djokovic, he had like probably 5 to 10, like not exaggerating, 5 to 10 overheads that he didn't put away that he absolutely should have. And it felt like it was that situation where he remembered, oh, I'm playing Novak Djokovic. I need to put this, like, I need to swing so hard. And then he would miss those shots.
Exactly.
And even at the very end of the tournament, or at the very end of the match, Djokovic ended up winning 6-3, 7-5. As they're like shaking hands, Zizou says, I need to stop idolizing you. Like he says that to him,
Exactly.
and he literally used those words. And then you're describing it right here. It's because, and yeah, it's just like if you don't have that calm, cool mentality, like you're gonna get in your head about it. And that was what happened there. And it was really cool to see a player like Vacherot put his name on the map and beat. Changing the guard now. It feels like a little bit. Djokovic loses this one. He's fallen off. He's fallen off.
Yeah. Yeah. This was his tournament to win. But I will say I would say that Djokovic didn't lose this match more than Vacherot won it. I think Vacherot, earned the win,
Yeah.
which is cool. It wasn't like he rolled over or anything like that.
Yeah. All right. So going into the final, both these players are it's not just that they're cousins, they're also very involved in each other's lives. Like they'll like zoom in on the players box during some of the previous round matches. And you would see Vacherot in Rinderknech's camp, and you would see Rinderknech in Vacherot's camp, like during the previous rounds of the tournament. Like not only are the cousins, they're
That's
close.
awesome.
Which is really cool. It's really cool. And so the final, I kind of thought it would go one of two ways, right? You would either be like, they've got this like loving beef that they have between each other, and it's going to be like super intense and like loud and aggressive, or on the other side, the flip side of the coin, they're both just thankful that they're there and they're going to have the most fun and obviously still be competitive about it. But nonetheless, it won't be like there's not like bad blood, and it definitely felt like it was the latter. It was a really fun match. They both obviously are trying as hard as they can, but it didn't feel like it was like, oh, I need to be better than you. I feel like, when people have known each other since they were kids, it's easy to maybe think that there's some rivalry there, something like that. And maybe there is, but they handled it really well. Really cool match. Both these players, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, but they have both of them have a more unique play style, especially for being bigger guys. They move so well. I mean, both of them are, I'd say, like 6'4", 6'5". And they both move the court really well. And the other thing that surprised me this whole tournament was how well conditioned they were. So you'll see
Yeah.
sometimes with these players that make it deep in these tournaments, especially the 1,000 tournaments where they have to go through qualifiers and everything else, and you really got to grind out these tough matches. You'll see them really fall apart if they do manage to make it to the quarters, round of 16, semis, like anywhere in there, you kind of see them fall off pretty quickly, just because of how much it takes when you're playing every day for the beginning, and then every other day for the later matches. You usually see them fall apart. Neither of them looked like that at all. They both looked super healthy, the whole day, especially given that they had played some three setters already. It's not like they were, breezing through the tournament. As we had said, Vacherot had lost a lot of his first sets.
Yeah.
So Rinderknech in the first set ends up winning the first set 6-4, which was par for the course. As we talked about, Vacherot really had gotten out to a slow start in a lot of these matches. And that was the case here as well. Not a ton to write home about. I mean, I will say it didn't feel like either of these guys, they both have really good serves, but not like insane, I'm acing you every time serves. They're good enough though. Obviously, they made it this far. But again, it didn't feel like normal big guy play. They really were moving around the court really well. A lot of serve and volleys. Anyways, to not belabor the point, Vacherot ends up winning the next two sets, 6-3, 6-3. Looked like the more dominant player. Really, what it came down to for me was just like a little bit fewer errors than Rinderknech. It just felt like Rinderknech was kind of going for a bit more on some of the ground strokes near the end, wasn't quite hitting them, and Vacherot was putting away a lot of serve and volleys, or just getting up to the net in general. Ended up making it up there. For me, though, honestly, the thing that I'm probably going to remember the most from this final is the post match like interview when they are. It's one of my favorite things about tennis is immediately after these guys just went through an insanely grueling tournament, they make them go up and do an interview in front of the whole stadium, and like not just like how did you play, but they make them talk for like a good few minutes, and the first place and second place team, like you don't see a lot of that in other sports, I don't think. Like in the NBA finals, they don't have the loser of the NBA finals go talk to the whole stadium, and part of that is because you're not at a biased arena, because right, like
Yeah.
sometimes you are if you're a British player playing in Wimbledon, say, but obviously neither of these guys are hometown heroes in Shanghai. But nonetheless, when they did that post match interview, both the guys were just like tearing up big time, like just crying at some points, just talking about like how much how they grew up together, love each other, and we're both worked so hard to get here, that sort of thing. The other thing that was funny about it for me was that you had like all these different languages going on, because you have them speaking, I believe French is
Yeah.
yeah, because Rinderknech is his
He's
country
French. Yeah.
is
Yeah.
French. Yep, and but I think even in Monaco, I think they speak French
That's right.
typically. Okay, but yeah, right. So you have them speaking French, and then you have like the loudspeaker like announcing it in the translation in would it be Chinese, like Mandarin? And then you also have English as well, where the announcers are somehow also getting some sort of translation from the post-match interview and then relaying it to the American audience. So there's like three languages going on for it, which is like pretty surreal, because normally you have like media trained players like Alcaraz, Sinner, Djokovic, who all know English like they're like it's their second language, because for most of them it is. And so you saw that, and so anyways, it was a very unique experience, I thought.
Yeah. It is funny that one of, not an actual requirement, but seemingly one of the requirements of tennis, if you're really good, is to also be able to be like a pretty decent orator. Like at
Yeah.
least not even just give these press conferences, because press conferences are a certain, that's a certain skill that, not everybody's good at. We've seen that with some NBA players. It's like, all right, they should probably get media trained. Um, but yeah, like you said, this isn't just a press conference. This is like immediately after you win or lose, you have to speak. And it is really interesting. But yeah, really cool moment for Vacherot. I mean, it clearly was just like, you can see it on his face just how much he didn't really believe that this was happening, and like I think reasonably so. Like this is the biggest fairy tale story of tennis. I don't know, at least the last 5 years in my memory. I mean, he's only the third player to come from the qualifiers to win a Masters 1000 match, and the last person to do that was in 2001. So it's like we haven't
Wow.
seen something like this happen in a long time, and you could just tell how thankful and happy he was, and that was really cool to see. I
Right.
mean,
I
that's
thought so
that's
too.
one of those
Yeah.
real good just sports moments, especially tennis, such an individual sport. You talk about the finances. I'm sure he's like given so much money and time and energy into this, and he's seen his cousin succeed, and now he is like, I think he's already ranked 40th. Like he's going
Yeah.
to now be invited into the main draws of a lot of these tournaments, at least not have to qualify. Like you said it earlier, and I think you're totally right. Like this is a life changing moment, and it was really cool to see.
For sure. Yeah, I'm hoping we see him the next Masters 1000 tournament is in Paris, France. So you got to think
Oh,
him and
cool.
Rinderknech should both be pulling up at that one. That's happening at the end of the month, actually, October 27th to November 2nd.
That'll be interesting to see like where he gets seated.
Seated,
You know
I
what I mean?
know.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
how do you properly react to this. I know that tennis seeding, they're a little more conservative with their big moves. Like, after a player gets an upset, they do obviously move a lot, but they're not going to like rank him above Djokovic just because he beat Djokovic. But where do you rank him seeding into that tournament? I mean,
So I
yeah.
think these tournaments are seeded based on ATP points. Like there's no like even
Oh,
if you're the
really? Okay.
if you're the tournament director, yeah, you don't really get a say. And then but I think that's only true for like the first 12 to 15 seeds, and then after that the seeds are sort of like randomly thrown in there. It's they do it, it's not how you would expect. It's not very
Okay.
yeah, I think they do that to just like not have anybody try to play the points game or something like that. So like, if you really didn't want to match up with Djokovic, you would know that, oh, at this Masters 250 event, I have to
Sure.
throw, so then I get this seed. I think there's a little bit of that goes on, but I don't believe any of it's up to tournament directors for any of these tournaments.
Yeah, but either way,
Yeah,
I'm interested, seeding or not. I'm interested to see like
yeah,
just what his tennis career goes to. He's 26. Like he's definitely got some plenty more years of being
for
able to play
sure,
tennis.
for sure.
And I'll be rooting for him a little bit just because it's like it was fun to kind of watch this whole thing happen and
Oh
see
yeah,
his kind of gratefulness and him come onto the scene so fast. Yeah.
for sure, for sure. All right, thanks, Matt.